The June edition of Isthmus is here. It's free all over Madison, and it's jam-packed. It looks at how Epic Systems' non-compete agreements could affect the growth of startups in Dane County. You'll also find Isthmus's detailed guide to getting the most out of your summer in Madison. Find Isthmus at grocery stores, libraries, and coffee shops, and online at isthmus.com. Read community journalism in Isthmus, Madison news and culture since 1976. Today on CityCast Madison. Our guide to summer entertainment continues with the Madison Jazz Festival. Starting tomorrow, you can find a jazz concert somewhere in Madison every day of the week. The 11-day festival features everything from classic jazz vocalists to Latin fusion to hip-hop inspired acts. Renowned trumpeter Marcus Carroll and saxophonist Lakeisha Benjamin will be there, and the whole festival wraps up with a Juneteenth celebration. Madison Jazz Fest organizers Elizabeth Snodgrass from the Wisconsin Union Theater and Jolynn Rorda from the Arts and Lit Lab give us the details. It's Wednesday, June 7th. I'm Dylan Brogan, and here's what Madison's talking about. Jolynn, Elizabeth, thank you for being here on CityCast Madison.
Thanks for having us, Dylan.
Did you hear the one about the jazz band that was on a bus that broke down on the Beltline? Witnesses are reporting a massive jam. Oh, you guys are pretty sweet for laughing at me. Anyway, there's a great jazz fest, a Madison tradition happening over 11 days, and there's 11 days of concerts. Jolynn, am I wrong? Has it always been that much jazz in Madison at once?
The Jazz Festival for a long time was just a couple of days, one more condensed weekend. And since 2018, we've been doing this longer week-long format. But 11 days is the longest that we've done. We've been continuing that longer format because it seemed to be a big hit to be able to send events to different areas of the community and really, make it something that a lot of different jazz presenting organizations and venues and even sort of atypical places where jazz could happen, like libraries and stores and, restaurants and things like that could embrace this festival. We've started it the week ahead so that we could lead up to the Terrace and have that be the big culminating event.
Very cool. Well, and a wide range of venues, and there's also just a wide range of jazz that we're going to hear, like you said, over these 11 days. Everything from Latin jazz to classic jazz to vocalists to some more soul-inspired jazz. So how did you choose the artist? Maybe we'll start with you, Elizabeth.
Well, one of the first things we start looking at is the headliners, because those usually get booked much farther out. And then once we have the headliners secured, we start working on the free Terrace performances that happen in the afternoon. Oh, and I should say the other thing that is a new iteration of the Jazz Festival is dovetailing it with a celebration of Juneteenth. So we've had Rob Dees program the Terrace performances on Sunday, Juneteenth, to celebrate Black American music. And Jolynn, do you want to speak to how you chose the artists for the rest of the festival?
Yeah, what we're trying to do for the things that are happening off campus is really shine a spotlight on things that people can enjoy in the jazz community all year long. And that's why we try to reach out to other venues and organizations and different music series that happen that would be a good place for us to get people to come to them, hopefully during the festival, and then hopefully they'll keep going throughout the year, such as, working directly with the different venues like Cafe Coda and North Street Cabaret and the High Noon Saloon and talking to them about artists that they might want to bring for the festival. So we're really asking everybody to kind of up their game and bring in people who, maybe normally don't come to Madison or, not very often or something they've really wanted to kind of reach for. We want to bring in as many of the sort of top flight, top jazz musicians from the country to really bring all those new ideas and that new music here to our community, which is a great benefit to our local musicians.
So some of these are, like you mentioned, are free events, and some of them do require tickets. So which ones do you have to buy tickets in advance for?
That would be the Shannon Hall headliners. So on Saturday night, we have Lakeisha Benjamin performing in Shannon Hall. And then on Sunday is Ranky Tanky with guest vocalist Lisa Fisher, also in Shannon Hall. And those two are ticketed.
Let's talk about Lakeisha Benjamin. She sounds very accomplished and kind of like a little bit of a badass. We heard that she's known for playing with Prince, but she got that chance after crashing a bunch of his gigs. Is that? Have you guys heard that rumor?
I haven't heard that story, but that doesn't surprise me given who she is. Yeah.
And she's played for President Obama. And before we hear a little clip of it, can you, either one of you, just describe a little bit about what you like about Lakeisha Benjamin?
Well, she's quite accomplished and really, started to get a name for herself quite a while ago, in 2010, but really just most recently got even more notoriety with the album Pursuance, the Coltrane's, dedicated to the music of John Coltrane. And then her latest album, called The Phoenix, is a real statement and story of her tragic experience in a car accident recently, and her way through that. But she's as you said, a badass in person, just the way she lives her life, and also with her music, really bold and venturing into new directions, taking jazz into new places. So really excited to have her.
Yeah, let's just hear a little sample of Lakeisha Benjamin. And then really capping off on Juneteenth, we got the Ranky Tanky with Lisa Fisher. What's that going to be like?
So Ranky Tanky, just before the pandemic, won their first Grammy, and then recently won another. They perform jazz-influenced music from the Gullah region, which is from the low country region of the U.S., South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. And it's an African-American ethnic group that have descended from the slaves. So they're carrying on the tradition of the music, but bringing their own take to it, adding a jazz influence. And Lisa Fisher, I first learned about her from the movie 20 Feet from Stardom, because she was a very well-known backup artist to people like Sting and Luther Vandross. But she's also really making a name for herself as a solo artist. And so we're really excited to have her join Ranky Tanky.
And let's hear a little bit from them.
Dog on the porch, kicking off fleas, chicken in the yard, scratching up peas, way down yonder, where I come from, but girls love boys.
And then also on, there's a whole afternoon of Juneteenth programming at the Terrace on Sunday. I believe it's June 18th, and Juneteenth is actually on June 19th. But
Yes.
This is the Sunday before, right? And it's with Rob Dees, who is a very familiar name around Madison and quite an accomplished performer all on his own. So can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect from that? I mean, it's like 7 hours of jazz, right?
Yeah, we're really fortunate that Rob agreed to work with us on this. As people may know, he's been working for many years with Kujichaguliga's Juneteenth celebration that happens on the third Saturday of every June. And when I talked to him about programming a Juneteenth observed event on Sunday, he said, yes, I'll do that. But could we also bring some of these artists to Penn Park on Saturday? So some of these artists will also perform on that Saturday at that event. And then we've got a range of hip hop, R&B, and rap that's performing with us. So I'm excited. These are new artists to me, and I'm excited to see what Rob has cooked up for us.
Hey, CityCast Madison, it's Michael Ziviak. While CityCast Madison works hard every day to connect you with the stories that matter most, I'm working in the background making sure that our listeners are connecting with the best that Madison has to offer. So what does that look like? It means meeting with the people who make Madison what it is. The business owners, the stakeholders, the decision makers. The Madisonians who book the concerts you enjoy, the exhibits you can't miss, and who open the new restaurants you have to try. If this sounds like you, let me help you get your message out to the city's best audience with an ad right here on the CityCast Madison podcast. Shoot me an email at ads@citycast.fm and let's connect.
What is the state of the jazz scene in Madison right now, especially when there's been a lot of changes in venues lately, but the Brink Lounge closed, and that's been a loss. So can you just talk about, how is Madison fostering a vibrant local jazz scene?
It really is. And you're absolutely right. The closure of the Brink Lounge was a big loss because of their long history in the jazz scene and the way that they've really supported jazz for so many years. But the good news is, we still have Madison's Jazz Club, which is all jazz all the time at Cafe Coda, as well as almost all of the live music venues are including jazz in their regular concert seasons. And at Arts and Literature Laboratory, we also have quite a bit of jazz throughout the year.
Yeah, I agree with Jolynn that jazz is still very much alive. And I think all venues, not just in Madison, but across the country, have struggled since the pandemic to figure out how to come back, to stay relevant, to figure out what their next chapter is, if you will, deciding what to hold on to, what to try new. And I would say that any closure of a venue is a statement about the art scene itself. It's really, it comes down to, a variety of things. I think jazz is evolving and how we present jazz, how we label jazz, what people would call jazz today may not be what people would have called it many years ago. And I think jazz is just, because it's so free, there's the ability to take on several different types of musical influences and still call it, put it under the umbrella of the label jazz. But I think it's thriving. I think it's evolving. And I think it's heading for a new future, but it's very much alive in here.
And Cafe Coda, that is the jazz club in Madison. And you look at their programming and they have a lot more than, quote, just jazz, right? So I think that's a good indicator where the jazz scene's at. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, and you see that also with the, Sunday Terrace programming with the celebration of Black American music. It's not just what people think of, that instantly comes to mind with jazz. I think what we're trying to showcase in this whole 11 days is the breadth of jazz and the different styles so that people can realize that they might not think they like jazz, but actually they probably do. There's something that we have during this festival that they're really going to key into. And that can happen all year long with all the different styles of jazz. And, when they're at other music festivals this summer, they're going to hear a lot of jazz. If you look at the lineups for the Pursuit of Happiness and the sessions in McPike Park and, just about all of the different music events, there are jazz artists included because there's so much variety in what musicians are doing and so much.
Yeah, and like you said, there are new things happening in the genre right now. And a lot of which will be on display at the Madison Jazz Festival. Just because we mentioned Cafe Coda too, you couldn't have a jazz fest in town without Hannah John Taylor himself, right? So is he playing on the Terrace or Cafe Coda? Where is he playing and fitting into this jazz fest?
Yes, we're excited that he's agreed to play on the Terrace on Saturday at 4:30. And he's a mastermind of what he does at Cafe Coda. So he's an incredible presenter, but also an artist himself. So I'm excited to get to present him and what he does with his music in our space.
I'm pretty sure you'll also
Great.
get to hear him sit in a little bit with the Wayne Shorter tribute concert as well at Cafe Coda on Saturday, June 10th. We'll have Pawan Benjamin and Russ Johnson and Clay Lyons, John Christensen, and Dave Stoller, along with Wayne Saltzman on the drums. And I am absolutely certain that Hannah is going to be a part of that.
It's great to see that you guys have just produced another great lineup this year. So just before we wrap up, what do you think the future of jazz is?
Well, I guess I'll say I'm excited to see what the future of jazz is. I think it is one of the most exciting art forms because of how it evolves, it changes, and because it is so dependent on the musicians themselves to bring new things to it based on what's happening in the world, what's happening in their lives, who they are, what they care about. So I can't say what the future of jazz is, but I'm excited to hear it. The future of the Madison Jazz Festival, I hope that we continue to grow in the sense of bringing big names that, as Jolene said, that are special to the Madison community, that might be otherwise difficult for Madison to hear and see live in person. I hope that we will, and I expect that we'll continue to celebrate the local jazz scene that we have here, which has been rich for a very long time, and I think a big reason for why we can call Madison a big music town. And I hope it makes Madison a destination and something that people know that they can find some of the most incredible jazz and music right here in town, that they will travel here for it, just like they do Chicago, Milwaukee, and other nearby regions. But Madison is a beautiful town, rich in many ways, and jazz is certainly one of them. And I look forward to helping that continue to grow.
Yeah, like Elizabeth said, we very much want to stay true to supporting our local scene and our local musicians. And one of the things we're trying to do with the festival is to cultivate this next generation, both of audiences and of musicians, and get them excited about this music so that we can keep it going.
Well, there is a ton to check out with the Jazz Festival for aficionados of jazz, to some new offerings too for people to get connected with this local scene too, and to see some big acts. So thank you so much for joining us, Jolene and Elizabeth.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you.
That was Wisconsin Union Theater Director Elizabeth Snodgrass and Arts and Lit Lab co-director Jolene Rorda. The Madison Jazz Festival starts tomorrow, June 8th, and ends June 18th with a performance from Rinky Tinky and Lisa Fisher at UW-Madison's Shannon Hall. Some events are free, and for some, you will need a ticket. Check our show notes for a link to the full lineup. And here's what else Madison's talking about. Reservations at a certain Monroe Street restaurant are going to be harder to come by. 2 chefs from Fairchild have won a coveted James Beard Award. Ataru Nagano and Andrew Kroger were named the best chefs of the Midwest. Madison only has 2 other James Beard winners, Odessa Piper and Tori Miller. Both are from the downtown restaurant L'Etoile, where these chefs also worked, carrying on the award-winning legacy. Fairchild opened in 2020 and focuses on classic cuisine with farm-fresh ingredients and handmade pastas. And the Madison School District is considering new rules for students who bring drugs to school. District officials are asking the school board to differentiate between sharing marijuana or psychedelic drugs and selling drugs for money. Another change being proposed is banning toy guns. Madison school board members will vote on these new rules later this month. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Dylan Brogan in for Bianca Martin. If you enjoy the show, why not share this podcast with someone who appreciates the notes not being played? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk then.